Hello, everybody. This is Oceanus, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. This is awful. This is awful for anybody who's followed me, who's followed nationalist politics for a while, in America especially. The Supreme Court, yesterday morning, ruled that all people who are born in the United States of America, regardless of whether their parents were citizens or not, all people born here are citizens of the United States of America. It was a 5-4 decision with Roberts and Barrett joining the Liberals and Kavanaugh partially joining both sides, even though he technically dissented, which is why it's a 5-4 ruling and not a 6-3 ruling. So let me read this here. This is the first page of the opinion. The question presented is whether the Constitution guarantees citizenship to children born in the United States of parents who are unlawfully or temporarily present in the country. Under the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state within wherein they reside. On January 20th, 2025, President Trump issued Executive Order number 14160, titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. The order provides that children born in the United States of parents who are unlawfully or temporarily present here are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and thus do not qualify for citizenship. Under the 14th Amendment, or the Immigration Nationality Act, INA, which uses the same language. 90 Federal Regulation 8449, several parents filed suit, some in the name of their children, arguing that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment and the INA. The district court agreed provisionally certified a nationwide class of children who would be denied citizenship by the order and preliminarily enjoined the order's enforcement. This court granted certiorari before judgment. Hold. Children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. So what this is saying is that everybody who is born in this country, regardless of whether your parents are illegal or just hop the border pregnant and went to the hospital and birthed a kid, you are a citizen of this country. Whoop-de-doo. And Governor DeSantis, my governor, made a good point. This was not a decision on procedural grounds, i.e., POTUS can't do this through executive order, but Congress could legislate it. It is a substantive decision that says the 14th Amendment requires citizenship for those born to, among others, birth tourists or those unlawfully present in the country. We need either a constitutional amendment or a future court to overrule this. Any way you slice it, this decision is a major defeat. Exactly. There were no exceptions made, and there was nothing. John Roberts basically said that there's no way you can limit this, and that there are no exceptions to anything. And I mean, like what I'm saying is that they didn't just say the president has no authority to amend the Constitution via executive order. They said that this is the definition of birthright citizenship, and that there's no changing it no matter what. You can't get an amendment, and you can't get a court ruling. This is just it. This is it. Eudaimonia treats every human being on the planet as just undocumented American, and America is just a tax colony. So I honestly don't understand. If that's the case, why aren't we able to just control the entire planet? Oh, but that's imperialism, right? Well, apparently we can't be imperialist. But oh boy, everybody else can come and come leech off of our tax dollars and just come to our country. I'm a bit Yeah. The Supreme Court today. I'm proud to be an American. What is an American? A person of no particular ethnicity or religion or culture. All human beings on Earth are undocumented Americans. All human beings on Earth are undocumented Americans. But simultaneously, everybody on Earth is their own sovereign person. And the refined populace said that Americans have no birthright. Freedom of religion protects satanic altars, not Christian prayer. Right to bear arms protects Tyrone's Glock switch, not your gay R. President requires the consent of 890 federal judges to act. What's even the point of the Constitution anymore? Exactly. And then he also went on to say that that is a wrap on the American Republic. The Constitution is now nothing but a suicide pact. We either tear it up and restart from scratch or die a slow, painful death by a thousand cuts. It is better to live under American tyranny than constitutional Somalia. Very true. Very true. Because what this is eventually going to lead to is that it's eventually going to let everybody in here and we're going to become Somalia. It's already happening. Like, look at Minnesota. You can be an enemy of the United States and sneak across the border long enough to give birth, and you'll immediately win all the benefits we work hard to pay for. America. Thank you, SCOTUS. Exactly. Citizenship means nothing. It means nothing. Stephen Miller, once again, with the good take here. If you believe a child born to a foreign mother flying over U.S. airspace is an automatic American, that you do not believe in citizenship. Yes, exactly. Why this is no other country in the world has this interpretation. They say they do, and everyone always is like, oh well, there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of countries in the Western Hemisphere that has birthright citizenship. Mexico has birthright citizenship, for example. Well, you know what Mexico also has? They also have it in their constitution that foreigners cannot own Mexican land. So yeah, while you can technically be birthright citizenship in Mexico, you're not getting much from it. We don't have that though. Anybody can own land in America, whether you're a foreigner or not. Whether you're a foreigner or a citizen, anybody can own land. And Daniel Kunkanen here says 1776, a white nation for white people, 2026, an anti-white economic zone for everyone else in the world, from America to white America in 250 years. And this is, of course, referencing the first Immigration Act, which limited to immigration to white men of good character, which is funny to me because we get these lectures on our founders all the time and the framers of all the constitutional amendments all the time, where they're like, you see, America is a racist country built by racist white men, and the founders and the framers of the Constitution were racist white men. But at the same time, they said that if you were lucky enough to make it, anybody could come here to become a citizen. Even people from India or the Horn of Africa. They're racist white men, you see. But if you dodge the racist white men patrols and you manage to birth a child here and you're not white, then they're like, "Oh shucks, you got us, and you could stay." Interesting, huh? Very interesting. But of course, don't leave it to the to liberals to be or leftists in general to be consistent in their ideological beliefs. The confusion is the point. And this idiot's saying 27 million people immigrated to the United States between 1880 and 1924, and it seemed to work out just fine. What it did for our day was make sure that down the line the blood and soil inbreds at the Federalists had some competition. No, it did not turn out fine. While it may seem like it turned out fine because it's so far removed, you had people with radical ideologies coming from Europe to America, especially Germans, Italians, and Russians and Jews that came to America with their radical ideologies. And if I don't know if any of you remember like Sacco and Vanzetti. Now there's a big debate on whether or not they were really innocent, but they were radicals from Italy, radical socialists, I think anarchists even, and they were accused of a crime and they were executed for it. But that was just one example of many I think the person who assassinated William McKinley, if I'm not mistaken, was an anarchist from. I don't think he was from Italy. I think he was from somewhere else in Europe. But he was one of those people who came over and he killed President McKinley. And the other thing that happened was between 1880 and 1924, that was when the Socialist Party of America was at its strongest because the socialists and the communists in America weren't really American, or at least most of their organizers weren't. They were made up of a bunch of European social clubs. The Finnish were very big examples of this. Gus Hall, the former head of the Communist Party USA, was originally named like Gustavo Hallberg or something, and he was from a Finnish family. He was an American citizen, but he was from a Finnish family who settled in Minnesota. Um, and a bunch of people. This is the same story for a bunch of people as it was for Gus Hall. But during that time period, you had a bunch of people coming over who immediately were like, "We're going to be part of the Communist Party or the Socialist Party," because it's just what most of our in group are. So no, it didn't work out fine. Um, and it got to a point where we actually had to create another immigration act, I think, in 1924, to stem the tide of immigration from certain European countries because all their radicals were just coming over here and infesting our politics. Which, I mean, today you wouldn't know it because most of these ethnicities, the Germans, Italians especially, are mostly like right wing. Russians as well. But back then it was a really big issue. And then you see the same thing happening today, just from different places. You see people coming from the third world who are now also joining leftist political organizations because they don't really fit in. Which is why we have all these people who are in the DSA running around spouting their anti-American nonsense. The same thing was going on back then, except it wasn't as explicitly anti-American as it was now. Oh yeah, the communists, they were going to try and dismantle America. And William Z. Foster, for example, had this book Towards Soviet America that envisioned like what the actual process would look like. But even William Z. Foster, I would argue, was more pro-American than the DSA types we have running around now, and that's saying something. Oh, William Z. Foster, also son of Irish immigrants, by the way. One of those people I was telling you about. No woman was involved in creating the country, its institutions, or constitution belong with one cold man, a Jew, a Puerto Rican, African, and a white woman with adopted Haitians, just decided that America is not a real country or one with a future. I'm sorry to say, exactly. But I mean, this is a disaster for the United States. Like the court is saying that a person who is illegally coming from Somalia or India can give birth to an American citizen. Like that's what they're saying here, and it's clearly not what the framers intended. As the 14th Amendment was meant as a fast track for freed slaves, many of whom were leaving for Liberia anyways, before Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, of course. But no, according to our modern day Supreme Court, birthright citizenship is for everybody, no exceptions. Everyone expected the liberals and Roberts to vote as they did, but there was one person who was kind of up in the air and who we were all kind of worried about, but it could have gone either way. And that was Amy Coney Barrett. And many people thought so was because of her children, her Haitian children. But I'm going to push back against that idea that this is what caused her to rule as she did. Because while she does have these children adopted from Haiti, they are legally adopted and they would not have been affected if she had ruled for the president. So really, she has no excuse as to why she ruled as she did. No excuse. And unfortunately, Amy Coney Barrett represents the worst of the pro-life movement. The reason why she was put on the court was because, one, Mitch McConnell wanted her on there, and he wouldn't accept anybody else, and two, they wanted to get rid of Roe v. Wade. The pro-life movement was all in on this, all in on wanting to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and they were the loudest voice in the Trump coalition, I would say. Well, we get rid of Roe v. Wade in 2022, and then you have these people who in the pro-life movement who had always were talking bad about President Trump in the primaries in 2022 through 2024, who was like, oh, he didn't do enough for the freaking pro-life movement. Meanwhile, he appoints the Supreme Court justice who made it her life's goal to get rid of Roe v. Wade and thus repealing it in 2022. Yet that was apparently her only issue that she was good on. Because after she repealed Roe v. Wade, and the nationalist right was like, okay, well, let's give birthright citizenship now. What'd she do? She pulled the ladder up behind her and said, go screw yourselves. And then a lot of the pro-life movement also did the same thing. And I hate to say it because I'm not against the pro-life movement. Let me just tell you right now, if you're pro-life, I'm not necessarily talking about you. I wanted Roe v. Wade repealed because I think that it should be up to the states. But there is a large segment of the pro-life movement that was only single issue. And that segment was actually very loud. And ultimately, when they won their single issue, they were like, all right, I'm done. Anything else is fine as long as we stop abortions. You can have your unlimited mass migrations, but you can't abort your children. But I'm fine with the mass migration, though. I'm fine with the social liberalism. I'm okay with the transgender stuff. Just don't abort your kids. And unfortunately, Amy Coney Barrett is the personification of this type of pro-lifer. I hate to say it. Now, that's unfortunate because with this ruling, all anti-American activity by the likes of Hassan Piker and the politicians that I have informed you about over the past couple days, they're all legitimized. Hassan Piker, let me tell you this right now, Hassan Piker is the poster child of this ruling. Hassan Piker's parents are Turkish. They were not citizens of the United States of America when he was born in New Jersey in the 1990s. He was an anchor baby. And then what they do? They took him to Turkey. And he was raised in Turkey. And then when he wanted to go to college, he came right back to the United States to subvert our political system. And what the Supreme Court just did yesterday? They legitimized that. They said, they looked at Hassan Piker and be like, yeah, this guy's legit. This is the American dream right here. You could be born in America. You can go back to Turkey, be raised in Turkey, and then come here and advocate for the destruction of our country. Supreme Court endorsed. And then he can bring his friends over. Fricking those people I've been telling you about all week. Many of whom are children of foreigners. Whether they're anchor babies or not, I'm not entirely sure. But I'm willing to bet at least one of them is. And they can do the exact same thing. And the Supreme Court is like, that is A-okay. That is fine with me. And you know, the stupid thing is that the left hates the Supreme Court. They don't see the Supreme Court as legitimate. Even after this ruling, they still won't see it as legitimate. Why? Because they ruled against them on other things that were important to them, like transgenders and sports. So when the left takes power, and they start packing the court, and John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett are like, well, wait a minute, we gave you guys birthright citizenship, we allowed you to stay in the country. Um, where are they going to run to? Because now the right hates them just as much as the left does. And you see, everyone's like, oh, well, if you're hated by both sides, you must be doing something right. Well, not all the time. Sometimes you're just ticking people off. And if you tick off enough people, then that sucks for you because you're not going to be welcome anywhere. Because now, young Americans are about to get screwed over because they have now been told by our highest court that we must compete with the entire world for scraps of our ancestors' birthright. Like that's what the ruling essentially said. Hey, young Amer-, and the worst part about it is that all these people in that court come from an age where this wasn't happening. There was hardly, look at the demographics from when these people were born versus the demographics of the United States today. The experiences, the life experiences of these people are and us are way different. And I don't know if it's just because people are out of touch, except for Alito and Thomas. I'm not talking about Alito and Thomas. I don't know if they're just out of touch or if they truly believe that everything is the same as it was back then, because it's not. It's not the same. Because all other issues in this country run downstream of birthright citizenship. The liberals always talk about, oh, look at all the smallpox that's coming up in the Southwest. Oh my gosh, it's RFK Jr.'s fault because he's going against vaccines. No, you know what it is? It's because of all the people we let in from countries that aren't vaccinated, from third world countries that don't have the same standards of cleanliness as we do. That's why we have all these diseases coming into the country. It's not because RFK Jr. said something bad about vaccines. But either they don't want to admit this or they just won't. And until our demographics are stabilized, until this is rectified, all other issues really don't matter because it becomes a waiting game. Like, we got a few wins on the Supreme Court, conservatives and nationalists. We got a few wins like the past couple weeks, but what does that matter if a couple generations down the line, the newly lib coalition of everybody who came to the country and were allowed to stay here, they are able to put in their Supreme Court justices and be like, oh, you know that transgender ruling the other day? Well, let's reverse it because that's unconstitutional. You know that ruling that gave the president unitary executive power? Let's reverse that because that's unconstitutional. They could just reverse everything. It's a waiting game for them. It is a waiting game. And a lot of people don't understand this, but this is how liberals got as powerful as they are. Because after the 60s, when the hippies went one of two ways, either they went hardcore conservative or hardcore liberal. The hardcore liberals, they started what I like to call, and I think other people like to call as well, the long march through American institutions. They got jobs in law, they got jobs in academia, they got jobs in government. And as conservatives became increasingly anti-government, right-wing people in America, they ceded these jobs to liberals in favor of doing other stuff, which I'm going to tell you right now, like trades and everything. Trades are great, we need trades, but we also need people in the government willing to advocate for us. But we kind of ceded that to liberals, and they were able to entrench themselves in all of our agencies, in our bureaucracy, in our law firms, in our courts. They were able to do this over the course of a long time. Like I think from the 60s to the 90s, decades they were able to do this. It took them decades to do this. And Unfortunately, fixing it is going to take just as long, if not longer. Because we had for so long ceded the halls of power to them. Oh yeah, this is what we also need. We need to put ice in every major hospital in America. If an illegal pregnant woman dares try to give birth in our soil, take them kicking, screaming, and drop them off on the streets of Tijuana. Exactly. We need. There needs to be new restrictions on who can come into the country. Pregnant woman. If you're a guy somewhere else in the world, you want to take your family on a vacation in the United States. If your wife is 9 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant, I'm sorry, that's too bad for you. Either you're coming by yourself, or you're and with you without her, or you're not coming at all. Sorry, that's what we have to do because the Supreme Court says that if you by chance have your kid in this country, your kid is a citizen. And then everyone's gonna be so upset, like, well, why are you letting these be? This is bad. This is against women. Blah. Well, you know what? You should have thought of that before you made a stupid decision. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to get creative with our immigration policy. The Supreme Court, the Supreme Court decision was the fork in the road of whether we would have to do this the easy way or the hard way, and they chose the hard way. They chose the hard way. And the hard way is going to be I don't know what the Trump administration has planned, but it's probably going to look really ridiculous. But it's going to have to be ridiculous because we have no other freaking choice. Just a couple more tweets before I sign off here. Leftist logic. Let's abort American babies by the millions, but make citizens out of foreign babies by the millions. Illegals and their children are entitled to call America their home forever, but native-born Americans are evil colonist invaders. The left hates you, and not just the left, but also the certain aspects of the religious right, because now they can abort their children when they come here. They can't if they come to a state where it's banned. So now what we should have done was we should have gotten Roe v. Wade um, taken out second, and we should have done birthright citizenship first. That way, we would still have the people who the single issue voters on the on board to get over this one last hump before they get their wish. Because now repealing Roe v. Wade and also saying that birthright citizenship is okay is a very bad combination. And I'm saying this as someone who really doesn't like abortion. But it is. It's the great replacement, plain and simple. Demoralize the native population into not forming families and aborting their children, while importing more compliant populations and subsidizing their birth rate. It is not a conspiracy, it is just a leftist policy. Exactly. And also, I think what we should do is cut off all benefits for foreigners in this country. If you're not born in this country, you don't get benefits. And I guess that doesn't really solve the birthright citizenship issue, but it would de-incentivize people from coming here. And people be like, "Oh, well, they don't get benefits." Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do, or they wouldn't come here. We're finding it out new stupid things we've been giving people every couple days, with especially with Doge and everything. Hmm. Ah, yes. The thing about the 14th Amendment was that its framers were very explicit about what it was intended for, to clarify the status of freed slaves born and domiciled in America with no foreign allegiances. They were very intentional about its exclusion of Native Americans, the children of invading armies, and the children of foreign diplomats. It was also written in 1866, long before any large waves of migration, legal or illegal, to America ever occurred. There is simply no logical inference you could draw that would lead you to conclude birthright citizenship was meant to include the babies of Chinese birth tourists and illegal border crossers. Exactly. Exactly. Yet, oh, you have people like this who are like, well, conservatives are like saying that the amendment is too old to contemplate the modern world, but then also say the Second Amendment protects modern assault rifles. You can't have it both ways. Just immigrate brown people and stop the charade. Okay, well, then if that's the case, then are we going to say that you got what you wanted, Mr. Texas fan? So now, since you got what you wanted, are you now willing to say that the Constitution should be applied as written? Because if you are, then there should be no form of gun control in this country. Shall not be infringed, man. Shall not be infringed. But you don't. You interpret what you want to interpret, and you leave in set in stone what you think is set in stone. Apparently, the Second Amendment is up for interpretation, but the First and the 14th are not. Why? You know why. But yeah, like this also is a very big national security issue. Why should Chinese people be allowed to have children and then raise them in China and do essentially what Hassan Piker did, and where his parents raised him in Turkey? Why should Chinese people allowed to raise their Chinese children, their American Chinese children in China, to become agents of the Communist Party and then bring them back here to study in our universities and go about daily life? How is that? How is that good? How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video because it's a problem. Every issue, or most of the issues, I'd say 99% of the issues that this country faces, can all be traced down to mass migration and birthright citizenship. And unfortunately, I really don't care about anything else at the moment. What's the point of us going to war in Iran if the Iranians can just get a bunch of pregnant women, paradrop them into the middle of the country, let them have their kids, and then wait 18 years to form a sleeper cell army in America? Like, what is the point of doing anything of anymore if it doesn't ultimately matter? It doesn't. Because, like I said, you may think we're getting victories now, but because of this decision, in a couple generations, when all these birthright citizens are of age, they'll be voting in people who don't who want to reverse these victories. And unfortunately, the people like me and you who are probably watching this video, we're going to be outvoted. We're going to be outvoted, and that's it. That's the end of the American Republic, because the people who it was made for, well, they didn't keep it, and they just let everybody else have it. We won't be the United States. We will be the United States of America. We'll be it in name only, but we will not be the United States of America in spirit. It'll be like those people who you know when in pop culture, for example, when they keep when what's the word for it? They're hollowing out the suit of something and then wearing it like a trophy. That's what they're going to do to the United States. That's what they're going to do to America. They're going to hollow it out, and then like they're going to hop in, and they're going to wear America like a trophy, but they won't be America because they have no cultural attachment to the United States. The America will just be window dressing for something else. some vague ideology that really doesn't matter, that stands for nothing. Anyway, guys, I am going up on 35 minutes here, and this will probably be a pain to upload because of how long how long it is. But yeah, this isn't good. And I hope you like, subscribe, and share this video, and please comment down below your thoughts, because I know I've said my thoughts, and I haven't said all what I think. But if I said everything that I thought, we'd be here for like hours on end. Follow me on Twitter if you want the rest of my thoughts, by the way, because that'll be where I'm posting them. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Have a good night, everybody.